I'm your host, Mandii B. Welcome to another episode of Period Cysts. And that's on Period Cysts. Giving birth has become so casually talked about in our society that we often forget how much a woman's body experiences when birthing a baby. Y'all know I don't know that experience. African American women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes compared to white women in the United States. And stats like these continue to highlight the urgent need for equitable and inclusive care in maternal health. That's why I love having these conversations here on Period Cysts. Here we go. Lucky for us, joining me today is 31-year-old Eva Woolridge to talk about her ovarian cyst being misdiagnosed for food poisoning and how it lit a fire in her to explore the history and influence of Black birth workers and their impact on reproductive justice work today. Eva is an award-winning photographer whose work has been exhibited worldwide and the creator of the documentary In These Hands, where they traveled 8,000 miles in a van across the United States interviewing Black doulas, midwives, academic scholars, professionals, and mothers who had traumatic birth experiences. Eva, thank you so much for joining us today here on Period Cysts. I'm really excited about talking to you specifically because your email with all the things you do was so compelling. And I want to start off, let's always bring it back. We like to bring it back to childhood. What was your first period like?
Wow, so when I had my first period, finally.
Oh, finally.
I immediately called my dad for some reason.
Okay.
I was like, I got it. I don't know why I called my dad first because I fortunately grew up in a very women supportive space because of my mom just being the beautiful matriarch that she is. And I have always had this big love for periods. I wanted it so bad. I wanted boobs. I wanted my body developed.
You said, come on now.
Literally.
At what age were you?
I was 14.
Oh, so it took a while.
So when I was 13, my friends threw me a 13th birthday and they bought me all period products. I actually had a shelf for another year because I desperately wanted it so bad. It was one of the sweetest, funniest birthdays you could ask for.
I need to know a little bit of the decorations, and shout out to your friends.
Really?
Well, because they all had their periods, I assume.
Yeah.
And so it's your 13th birthday.
Yeah.
All you want is your period, and so they throw you this period party. What type of things? How did you decorate it?
I mean, they got me an adorable cake. I mean, we were 13, so it wasn't too crazy. But it was at my friend Maddie Welchek's house, and they got me thong pads and these different they had mini small tampons and all decorated across.
That is so cute.
I took pose. I have photos on my phone right now of me holding the thong pads.
We need those. We need those,
which I'm happy to share.
Yes.
So I was really, one would say this is a calling to working in the reproductive justice space, but I'm very fortunate to have friends who were supported from the beginning.
I love hearing that. I think I've shared so much. I hid my period from my mom for the first year.
Wow.
She's also in healthcare. And so, of course, wanted all of her daughters to go work into the hospital because she always said, there's two things for certain. We're going to die and we're going to have to pay taxes.
Hello.
So she was and of course, I ended up becoming a tax accountant. But she wanted all of us to work in the healthcare space. And ironically, blood is just one of those things. I am 33 years old and I still get a little shivery when I see a clot or have to wipe. It's
wow, we're different. there was a clot in the toilet that I took a photo of, and I wiped, and sorry, this is so TMI. It was so crazy, and I said to my friends, I was like, do you see this shit that comes out of our body? So we're a little different.
Very different, but this love for the woman body and our experience led to something incredible that you started.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, the inspiration, I was reading books like The Red Tent, which talks about the history of women and having their periods in these tents in biblical times and that's where they shared their history.
Wow.
So I loved the sisterhood aspect of menstruation. It's so spiritual and deep. And so when I went to the University of Maryland, and my best friend and I, Jewel, we were smoking, and that's what we do.
Is that not how all great ideas come to us?
Hello. we read this article about how women who are experiencing homelessness don't have the necessary resources to handle their periods. And so we were communication majors, and we had a service project idea that we had to do. And we were like, why don't we just collect period products and give them out to homeless people experiencing homelessness? And that's when Red Dot campaign was born. And so in our senior year, we collected about 10,000 products to give to people in need. And after we graduated, we connected to a good friend of mine who's an artist, Sage Youngblood, and which is the hardest name ever.
Yeah. I didn't know what you just said,
Sage
but
Youngblood is her name.
Wait, Sage
She's an animator.
Is this her real name?
For real.
I'm jealous. My
She's
mom
Black
did
and
not
Filipino.
do me service in a cool name at all.
Right? So we created the Red Dot campaign together as a legitimate nonprofit where we collected period products, but we also hosted events to destigmatize menstruation across the board, which included the queer trans experience as well. We wanted to educate people on the menstruation experience. You don't have to. It's funny, we had a logo called Embrace the Period, and now that I'm off birth control, I'm like, wow, that's fucking crazy that we were trying to tell people to embrace the period, like the physical pain.
No, absolutely not.
I'm like, that's a poor choice of words. Instead, though,
embrace cramping. Embrace your titties being tender. Embrace all the things that actually make us miserable.
Literally. I was like, oh God, Eva. But at the time I was on birth control, so it wasn't affecting me. That being said, though, we created art exhibitions, storytelling events, wellness events, and specifically comedy shows, because we found that comedy is the best method for people to digest awareness through laughter. And so it was a very well-established oiled machine. We would have rent out gallery spaces and collect these different art pieces inspired by the period that we would do outreach for local artists and international artists to showcase their work. There was even our first art show. We had a makeup artist come in as their form of art, Michaela, and she was the Beyonce's makeup artist for the Black is King.
Incredible.
One of her music videos. And so I didn't tell anyone, but we needed a model, so I volunteered. Like, I volunteered.
You said, here's my body.
Look. And so I was naked other than having these underwear, and she spent the exhibition painting me, and in the end I walk out and there's like gold foil in my pelvic area, like my whole body looked gorgeous, like red and purples and etc. But I'm also on my period, so everything was very heavy and bloated, and so I walk out and my family is like, yay, like but 100% supportive, and it really, I was so excited to show the courage and the enthusiasm of this topic I really cared about.
I mean, but even just being in that space, being seen by everyone, a lot of times during the time of the month where we feel the least sexy, even saying you were bloated, everything was heavy. I know, like, so many times my friends are like, girl, I ain't going out nowhere. I'm on my period.
My back hurts.
You know, everything hurts. I wanted to get into also your advocacy. But something else led to that besides your love of periods. Can you get into a little bit of your backstory of what really made you want to advocate for us against the mistreatment in healthcare?
Absolutely. So when around 2018, I experienced an ovarian cyst.
Okay.
It was unexpected. I was on my way to work and I felt this like dull pain on the right side of my body that felt like a knife. It wasn't a dull pain. It felt like a dull knife.
Like a sharp pain. Okay.
Yeah, it felt like a dull knife being pressed against the inside of my abdomen. And when I turned around immediately, went home, and my body was almost like convulsing. Like you had to vomit, but nothing would come out. And so I had to wake up my roommate at the time, Nicole, who's one of my best friends, terrified to wake her up because it was her day off. I said, girl, I need you to take me to urgent care. Not okay. She's like, fine, okay. And she was my rock that whole day. I went to urgent care, and that's when this white female doctor completely misdiagnosed me and wouldn't listen to me. And
she diagnosed you with what?
Well, she said I had food poisoning. And I said, this is not food poisoning. I promise you. Like, I know. She's like, well, where did you eat the night before? I said, I had sushi. She's like, what restaurant? Because I want to avoid going to that Japanese spot.
No.
She really said that while I am vomiting bile from like on a pan as she's talking to me. And I'm like, it's not food poisoning. I know what it feels like. This is not that.
And so you advocated for her to do what? Or did you ask for a second opinion?
I had to go to the hospital. She wasn't doing, she's like, well, I guess you can call an ambulance. She said, I guess you can call an ambulance. Or instead, I got an Uber and I went to the hospital where I had to wait 40 minutes behind a woman with a sprained ankle, to the point where I had to put myself on the reception desk. And I said, I need to see someone. Like, I'm not okay. They took me, and then a black nurse saw me and said, please get her a chair and we can take her to the ER. So I went to the ER. They found out I had an 8 centimeter cyst, the size of a grapefruit. That's what doctors identify in order to help you visualize, or them to visualize the size of something. And residents were like looking at it with a face of shock. The doctor was too. And it turned out that it was too late. The ovary, the cyst wrapped around.
It ruptured?
Not erupted, but wrapped around my ovary. So it cut the blood flow. So they actually had to remove my right ovary. And at the time, my dad was there, and he was advocating for me if it was absolutely necessary, because there is a long history of black women being having their organs, reproductive organs, removed without their consent. And so, because he's so aware of that history, he is a Morehouse man. He doubled down, emphasized, like, is this necessary? Unfortunately, it was. But I had to do a lot of research after of what a dermoid cyst was, like why this happened. There wasn't that much information that was helpful. Could I even still have a period?
Right.
Like, I did not know if I would still be able to have a period. No one told me. Like, doctors didn't tell me.
Oh, no. So they just removed it and said,
they were like,
and sent you on your way.
100%. And then when I went for my checkup, this is why I emphasize to always have someone with you, because you're going to be shocked that you're going to forget all your questions. But he was like, yeah, it's a dermoid cyst. It had hair, teeth, and brain cells. And I was like, so what does that mean? He's like, it's just developed in the cyst. And I was like, okay. Sent it to my dad. He responded with a video of alien coming out of the body. So we're a funny family.
This whole experience then breeds a new person
100%.
in terms of what your experience was and then what you wanted to do in terms of moving forward.
100%.
Can we get into the grant and you leaning into photography following this?
Yeah, so I've always been a photographer, but I became award-winning with the Like a Woman in Photo grant in 2019 because I created a visual representation of my experience with the ovarian cyst. So it was the...
So you photographed an alien, basically. Basically.
No, I actually photographed a stunning model named Nicole Dye. She's amazing.
Amazing.
And she, I went to college with her, and I wanted to create a story of the emotional stages before, during, and after the surgery. So some was denial, some was surrender, another title's shock. And it all discusses visually, very simply, but visually, what it is like to be a Black woman in this medical space as a patient, and how much we have to advocate for ourselves. And winning that award launched my career. So I now was able to exhibit the Size of a Grapefruit series in Germany and Brazil.
That's the name of the series.
Yes. Oh my God.
That is so... it's funny that you say that because I've heard golf ball, I've heard egg, I've heard grapefruit. Yeah. Grapefruit, oftentimes, once it reaches that size, whether it be a cyst or a fibroid, that's like, we got to get this out of you.
Yeah, 100%.
I also know friends that have had like clusters.
Yeah.
And until they reach a certain size, they won't. But the size of a grapefruit is literally what I've heard so many of my friends say.
And that's the title.
That is so incredible.
Thank you. I clearly wasn't good at the communication degree because I didn't start with that. Yeah.
Okay, and so let's get into your documentary.
Yes, yes.
I want to talk about that before we leave out of here, because another step into the direction of educating, and to me, it's crazy because we talk about how comedy. Making comedy, like y'all know, Period Cysts is becoming a series. But in order to educate people, sometimes they don't want a book or jargon thrown at them that becomes hard to understand.
100%.
They want to feel entertained, and then that's how they actually keep it inside of them. So let's talk about the documentary.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about, too, that drive across the country. But let's get into the documentary.
So I was on a panel for The Size of a Grapefruit alongside a doula who was telling me and the audience about how during the antebellum period, there were granny midwives that would help birth, the enslaved women's children, right? And unfortunately, they were also enslaved. So what they would do would provide herbs to help abort babies that the parents did not want to bring into that world. And that was done in secret. And to me, it was fascinating because it was a form of liberation. These people were able, with their knowledge from West Africa, to not only have the power to help give birth, but also for their own preservation, abort if that was of the request.
Now, you brought up doula and midwife.
Yes.
These are terms that over the last few years I've been aware of. Of course, my mom just went to the hospital and had me and my sisters.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between a doula and a midwife?
So a midwife is someone who is medically certified to be able to help the birthing experience. So they can hold the baby through the canal and help push it out help pull out the baby. So they can touch, essentially, right?
The doula.
The blood. Yeah.
The doula cannot, though.
The doula cannot. They are like the advocates for the birther. So for the family, ensuring that their mind, body, spirit is taken care of, and that they're advocated for. So it's a beautiful partnership. A lot of people will, let's say, if they want to have a hospital birth, they may work with the doula still in order to ensure that they're being advocated for. Or you could have a midwife be there at a hospital, but there's also hospitals who are not friendly to midwives.
I was going to say, am I ignorant to say that having both of those is a privilege? Because does that not come with some sort of economic...
Definitely.
Advantage?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the space, like, it's so insane to me, like, the history of Black birth workers, because it was such a community village-focused experience. Like, they were the knowledge matriarchs to help, like, this new life come into the world.
We can always blame capitalism.
It is.
And that's exactly what it is. Like,
it is.
Even in terms of learning that you should actually give birth, like, sitting up or standing up, not laying down. But, of course, the way that the doctors want to just be able to get in there and get you out, it's become like a business.
Well,
birthing is a business.
It really started with Dr. James Marion Sims, who was the white man that in Montgomery, Alabama, would experiment on enslaved Black women for reproductive medical advancements. So Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy are 3 women of many women and men that were experimented on without anesthesia in order for internationally the knowledge of reproductive health to be spread. And so they would call Dr. James Marion Sim the father of gynecology before until activists were saying absolutely not. He was a terror that would traumatize physically and emotionally these enslaved people. And so...
What is the messaging then behind what you created with your documentary?
Yeah, so I wanted to create, the statistics are Black women die 3 times the rate as white women in the United States. We are one of the most developed countries in the world, and yet it is equivalent to an underdeveloped country. Why is that? Racism and like disparities in the medical space. And so I'm a very solutions-oriented artist, and so I wanted to inspire people to know that you can create information to help spread the word that there has always been Black women advocating and protecting other Black people and Black women in the medical space especially. And the history lies a lot in the South, within the United States.
Of course.
So I created a documentary with Brittany Brock and Sophia Chenier. Brittany is the director of research, and Sophia Chenier is the director of photography, alongside my producer, Odalis Lopez, Shaquila Todd, who is my marketing person, and my other producer, Jill Gordon. We created this movie where we rented a van, lived in the van for a month.
Wait, all of these people?
No,
lived,
just
okay,
the 3
I'm
of
like,
us.
okay.
Just the 3 of us. The producers were the eyes in the sky. And so we rented a van and traveled 8,000 miles down south up into like the West Coast and then across the United States, interviewing Black birth workers, midwives, doulas, academic scholars, reproductive health activists, as well as mothers who experienced trauma. So this is a full documentary, not only with this huge set of historical information by these impressive professionals, but also how we are processing and experiencing this trip, and what is it like to be a queer Black woman.
But not only that, I love that you spanned almost as much as you could, enveloping the entire country, and you didn't focus on one geographic location.
Exactly.
Because I know so many of our experiences are going to be different. Whether you live in a red state, a blue state, the South, the North, like everything is going to come across differently because, you know, a lot of our environments affect our experience.
100%. And this is post-Trump losing the election. Wow. So we were frightened. We were going through West Virginia. Like, and we really had to think, like, are we going to be safe? And what was beautiful is what came out of that is there are more good people than there are bad people in the world.
Like that.
I just want to say that. Like,
I like that.
And the Black women, these midwives, like Debbie Allen in L.A., we were about to, after we interviewed her, we had to go out into this, like, kind of ranch area for our Airbnb. And we would also stay in campgrounds, mind you. Like, we were staying camping. It was awesome.
Yeah, we're thugging it out.
And she was like, no, like, stay in my house, take a bath in my master bedroom, relax. Please let us cook you a meal.
Wow.
The women took such good care of us.
Wow.
They and that just speaks, and that's all captured in the documentary. We witnessed a car accident, 2 heads in front of us. It was a family of 3 with a 1-year-old baby. Brittany was driving. She stops the car. We helped take this family up with us to Texas. It was Mississippi to Texas because their stuff was totaled. And we're like, we're going this way. Do you want to be in our van? We're travel. So, like, we were fully involved in this trip.
Wow. What do you hope people take from the work that you're doing?
Well, first we need money, so I'm gonna just boop that in there.
Hello,
we
that's
are
fine.
in post-production. The movie's called In These Hands, and so we are partnered with Creative Control, Chiki and Kuti, who made.
Oh wow, who made Genius?
Yep, Kanye West documentary.
Yes.
Like, people believe in this story, and they're fighting for us. And it's every time we pitch it, people are like, "We love this, but we're looking for money to finish it."
Where can the audience be directed to support?
Well, we had a crowdfunding, but it just closed. So my PayPal, evawoolridge@gmail.com, they can help support there. But listeners who are passionate about this project, help fund it. If you know someone who's an investor who invests in important movies, reach out to us.
Absolutely.
Like, we're looking for big investment so we can finally finish this. Because the information, we want this to be spread in medical institutions.
What change do you hope to see happen within the healthcare field and how we view our menstrual periods? Really?
I would say policy that protects midwives and doulas.
Okay.
And stop withholding these educational spaces for them, because a lot of people who are interested in being midwives and doulas can't afford the cost that is in order to, like, be educated and trained with the certification that is required, that has their own historical fucked upness about it. So I think, and I want policies and hospitals to be more supportive of this route.
Great.
And to know that there's always a choice. There is always a choice. People are terrified to have babies. Like, Black women and Black birthers are terrified, even though many want to have children, they're scared.
Of course.
And so midwives were scared. They talked about their own experience on this film. And so I want people to know and walk away that there's a choice and there are options, and we don't have to just take the crumbs given to us. We can advocate for more for ourselves. And so that's what In These Hands, the documentary, is about, a birth workers documentary. My name's Eva Woolridge. I'm an award-winning photographer and a director, and I can't wait to share this with the rest of the world.
I'm excited, and I really hope that I'm able to also share the size of a grapefruit.
Oh, please.
With our audience as well. It's so great. And Eva, thank you so much for joining us here on Period Sis, sharing your story, sharing the work that you're doing. We need more of these stories told and this information given. So thank you so very much. And as y'all know, stay tuned for Stats and Facts. We will be right back. What an amazing conversation we just had with Eva. And as you know, here we go with some stats and facts, because studies have shown that having a doula present during childbirth can reduce the likelihood of cesarean sections by up to 28%. And women who have continuous support from a doula during labor tend to have shorter labors by about 41 minutes on average. I don't know about y'all, but my mama let me know it took a whole 24 hours to get me out, okay? Evidence suggests that women supported by doulas are also less likely to request pain medication or epidurals during labor. We know how painful it can be, but also studies consistently show that women who have the support of doula reports higher levels of satisfaction with their birth experience compared to those who do not have a doula present. This conversation with Eva today brought forth so many things that we have still to learn about the reproductive healthcare system and how we can make things easier for us, advocating for us. And again, like our sisters, our moms, so many of the women in our lives experience these things, and it can only get better with the education. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Period Sis. Before we get out, I want to thank Bel Air for giving us this beautiful, beautiful set. So if you're watching us on YouTube, I hope you loved how we looked. And if you tuned in, make sure to go subscribe. We're on YouTube if you haven't, so go check that out. Thank you guys for tuning in to yet another episode of Period Sis. Until next time.